filling in for Lauren's role, but we didn't discuss who would do a member roll call, but I guess I can take that on. Please respond as to whether you are present or not. Judith Humberg.
I think I am.
Yeah. James Oku. Natalie Sayre.
I'm sorry, did James respond? I see him.
Hello? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
James
now
is
we can.
here.
Thanks.
Sorry, every time I do this, my headset goes somewhere else and it thinks it's a controller or speakers or something else.
Thanks.
Natalie Sayre. Let's see if she's here.
Hold on, I'm gonna move her over just a second.
Okay.
Okay, she's here. Go ahead.
We're doing roll call. Natalie, are you there? Okay, we'll circle back when she figures out how to unmute. Louis Fagoni.
Here.
Jonathan Winslow.
Here.
Thanks. John Vars is myself, and I'm here. I saw an email from William or Bill that he wasn't going to be able to make it. Peter Markey, are you here?
Chair, I do see a hand raised, but it doesn't say who it is. It just says call from user 1. Do you want me to, maybe that's him. I'm not sure if there's anybody else trying to get in that's on your side. Let's see. Go ahead. Do you want me to go ahead and allow them to talk? Chair.
Sure.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear me? Go ahead, you can talk.
Okay, this is Peter. Can you hear me now?
Is this,
Yeah, okay, good.
Peter?
Yeah, I've been on. Thanks for unmuting me.
Great.
It's always a problem each time you have to unmute me. I can't do it.
Okay, no
So-
problem. Are you calling from a cell phone or is this your phone or?
My
Or so-
landline, and I call
Oh,
from
okay.
every meeting, and
All right.
I'm here.
All right, gotcha. Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
All right. Ryan Casey.
I'm here.
Fred Crowder.
I'm here as well.
Okay, and I think Lauren wasn't able to make it. Jim Howard is never able to make it. Our agricultural commissioner, however, is
Hello, I'm
present. Jess Brown, are you here?
I'm here, thanks.
And Summer.
I'm here.
And then did Representative Frank? So, okay, great. But we do have a quorum, it seems.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Lost track of my papers here. Big guy. Okay, so the third item on the agenda, as usual, is to adopt a resolution that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to health and safety of attendees. Can we, do we vote on a resolution each time to say that we're going to do this? Is that how we do it? Can't
Yes,
recall.
that's correct.
Yeah.
John, this is Louis. So that I
I'll make a motion
make a motion. We adopt resolution
remotely.
9.
I second.
Yeah.
Is that,
All right.
to the chair, was that Louis that made the motion?
It was Louis.
And Judith that seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have said my name.
Great. And then I guess we'll take a roll call vote to approve of the motion. Judith,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
did we find Natalie? I guess we never actually confirmed
I
or
talked to her.
got a confirmation and roll call.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I could hear her.
Great.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to do it on my phone. So, but I think I'll be able to do video as well. I'm so sorry. And yes, I am here. Thank you.
Okay. And Natalie, are you okay with the resolution to continue to meet remotely?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me? Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right, Louis,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
I also support the motion. Peter Markey. Peter, did you are you
I
able
said
to?
yes.
Yep. Okay, great. Ryan,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
great. Agenda item 4. Okay, so the resolution was adopted by the committee unanimously. And agenda item 4 is oral communications to allow the public to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. If your subject is not on the agenda, please make yourself known by raising your hand, and hopefully people can help me see that person. I'm on this iPad and I'm a little bit
Yes, I
awkward.
can check for that. I don't see anybody at the moment, but we might give it just a minute. I will note that if there's anybody by phone that is on and would like to raise your hand, it is *9. I'm not seeing anybody.
Okay. So let's move on to item number 5, which gives committee members an opportunity to speak. Committee member updates. Not
Hello, I'll just give a quick update from the Agriculture Department. We're going to be having a pesticide disposal event June 28th in Pescadero, and this is for agricultural pesticides. Appointments are required, so please, if you are interested and have some pesticides that you no longer want or unregistered or unmarked, please call our office and make an appointment so that you can dispose of those correctly. We do still have COVID test kits for farm workers available. We also have KN95s, N95, surgical masks, coveralls, hand sanitizer available for farm workers. So if you're in need of any of that, please give us a call. And then also the N95 that we passed out back during the fires by the company BYD, they were in a blue box. They have extended the life of those N95s to 5 years. So I think previously they were 2 years from manufacturer date, but now they've extended them for 5 years. So they're still good and you can use them, you know, for wildfire smoke or for pesticide applications that require N95s. And last but not least, the San Mateo County Health Department is not considering issuing a local health order to require masking indoors in public spaces, though the county still urges you all to get vaccinated and boosted when it becomes available. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Corin. And that may cover some of, anyone else, any other committee members with something to announce?
John, this is Louis. I have a question for Corin.
Go ahead.
Great.
Isn't the registration date for the pesticide, isn't that today? Isn't the cutoff date today to?
No, you know, I'd have to check on that, Louis. I don't believe so. We'll probably end up, I think we're encouraging you to register with us as quickly as possible because there is limited space. But I believe we're still accepting registrations. As far as I've heard, we haven't filled it up.
Okay, thank you.
We'll try to get as many as we can. And the one thing too, we're not saying the time and place just because we need you to register. We can't have people show up with pesticides that we don't know about. So we need to know what they are before coming. So please register.
Great, thank you. Item 6, committee discussion and update on the current COVID-19 pandemic, potential policies needed to protect local agricultural and foods. Farmers. And it's related to that. Lauren usually announces the ongoing testing that's going on. Maybe someone else knows some details.
All I know is we have some tests available. They're home test kits.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any available testing or boosters for agricultural workers? Because it seems like with COVID kind of ramping down that the availability of boosters and locations and those types of things has really been reduced. So is there anything planned for the future, or is it kind of catch as catch can?
I think it's pretty much the CBOs have like Coastside Hope and are doing vaccinations. They might not. I'm probably misspeaking right now, actually, though. But I know there's definitely some places that are still doing vaccines. There is no plan for the future to do the on-farm vaccinations at this time, like we were doing before. So at this time, we're not doing that. So they're encouraging people to go to their local health provider to get boosted.
Hi, Corin. It's Fred. Thanks. I checked with Coastside Hope, and there's no, they're not doing that anymore. And so,
Oh, okay.
yeah, they're just down the street from me. But I was also checking the fairgrounds. I think there's some walk-in at the fairgrounds, but I was just looking for something on the coast side.
If you look at smchealth.org and /vaccine clinic calendar, there's some on there. And I think you can kind of pick the one closest to you and see where they're available.
Great, thank you.
I don't think we have access to the chat. Otherwise, I post it in the chat.
Okay. And then we got another item that just kind of stays on the agenda. Number 7, the committee discussion and update of next action steps for market development for San Mateo County's agricultural production and potential. I know we had that meeting in Half Moon Bay, and sometimes Adria has updates on that.
She does have her hand raised. I'm going to ask
Great.
her to.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi,
Yes.
everyone. Yeah, I mean, we have the meeting. So I think this was on the agenda mostly leading up to the meeting. So I'm not sure if you guys want to continue to have this as an agenda item. We had the meeting. I think there were about 78 people there. So it was a really big turnout. There's a lot of interest from the community and just seeing what this was all about. And it seems like there is general interest in figuring out some solutions to help farmers and ranchers expand their markets. And so I think I sent out notes about the meeting for those that attended, and just kind of figuring out next steps. So that's my update.
Yeah, so I guess I have a question. This is
Thanks, Adria.
Audrey, do you have any idea as to next steps? I did see the notes and there was a lot of really good information in there, which actually was not unexpected in terms of the amount of interest.
Yeah, I know that I missed the last Farm Bureau meeting, so I know that they had a discussion about it. So I don't know what they've decided and how to move this work forward. Maybe Jess can speak to that. And I mean, personally, I think there's a need for a business plan to really figure out the economics of, I think, more detail about what an idea, whether that's at a specific location or, even just kind of, it could be just someone that helps coordinate stuff to make more the transportation or, delivery of product more efficient. And so I think that we need to get more specific about what that actually looks like. And I think the next step is developing a business plan to see if the economics pencil out. So I went on vacation shortly after the meeting, so I'm kind of freshly back from vacation, haven't had a lot of time to dive into this. But maybe Jess can speak to where Farm Bureau is at, since this was their passion project too.
Sure, I can add a few things. At the last Farm Bureau meeting, they reviewed your notes, which were really good. And so they're looking at locations and also reaching out to some entities that have done similar things to kind of learn from them as to how they went about doing this. And I guess that there are some people trying to do the same type of thing in other communities. So it's you know, getting together with some of those people. So it's still kind of exploratory right now.
Oh, so Jess, this is Judy again. Where has this kind of thing developed and been executed before in terms of who you're reaching out to get examples?
Well, one of the entities, and it probably wouldn't, you know, fit completely with what I think people in San Mateo want, but up in Napa, there's the Oxbow market, and
right, okay,
yeah,
I know that.
And so so that's one of them that they've reached out to see how they develop that, and you know, who was behind it and such.
Okay. I mean, if I may be able to come up with a few more of them that are sort of like Oxbow and other places. Are you willing to, how far are you willing to reach?
Yeah, as far as, you know, anywhere across the country would be good.
Okay. Okay.
That'd be great.
Would I send that to you?
Sure. Uh-huh.
Okay.
That'd be great, Chitty.
Great. Anyone else with any questions or comments? Maybe we'll go on to item 8, the Community Development Director's Report.
Yes, I can run through this report. So this was the report as of June 2nd, 2022, and it covers the period of April 29th to June 2nd. With regards to PAD, Planned Agricultural District permit applications that were heard or considered by the Board of Supervisors and or the Planning Commission during this time period. The Simrock project, if the committee recalls that project at 2450 Purisima Creek Road in North San Gregorio area. That project, modifications to that project were considered by the Planning Commission at their May 11th, 2022 meeting. And that project is currently, it was approved and it is currently in the California Coastal Commission 10 business day appeal period, which ends on June 16th, 2022. The other item was the Peninsula Open Space Trust and Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space Trust project at Higgins Canyon Road. This was the coastal development permit, PAD permit, certificate of compliances, lot line adjustment, and the Williamson Act modifications. And that project was considered by the Planning Commission at their May 25th meeting. And it was recommended for approval. The non-contract elements of the project were actually approved by the Planning Commission. The contract elements of the project needed to go to the Board of Supervisors. Since this report, though, on June 8th, I believe, an appeal was filed for the Planning Commission's approval on the non-contract portion of the project from their May 25th meeting. And so this project in its entirety will move on to the Board of Supervisors on appeal. That date is to be determined, but public noticing will occur in advance of that once that is agendized for the Board of Supervisors. There are no PAD permit applications were filed during this time period. There was one rural CDX coastal development exemption application that was submitted and approved during this time period. And that's included in the attachment to the board report, to the director's report, sorry. And that was for PLN 2022-00150 is the case number. And it was filed on May 3rd, and it was for a coastal development exemption for replacing burned overhead PG&E power lines that were burned in the 2020 fires, and replacing those from overhead to underground within existing roads around Butano State Park. And other projects include a few new applications. One is for Philip and Genevieve Hovker, PLN 2022-00181. The location is 7126 Pescadero Creek Road, and it's for a coastal development permit. No PAD permit is required, but a coastal development permit for an addition to a single family residence at that property. That application was filed on May 31st. And project planner is myself, Summer Burleson, and my contact is on the director's report if you have questions on that project. The other project to notify the committee about is Peninsula Open Space Trust has a planned agricultural district permit renewal that we are processing. It was filed June 1st, 2021. It is just kind of picking up steam again. So we thought we'd report it to the committee. It's a PAD permit renewal for one farmer labor housing unit at 6525 Cabrillo Highway in Pescadero. No changes are proposed to the existing approved unit. And the project planner on that is Delaney Selvage, and her contact dselvage@smcgov.org is listed on the director's report. And the only other announcement is just the next regular Ag Advisory Committee meeting will be on Monday, July 11th, 2022. Thanks.
Thanks, Summer. Okay, let's move on to the regular agenda. Item number 9. This concerns the owner is the County of San Mateo, more specifically the La Honda Pescadero Unified School District. The applicant is the County of San Mateo. The PLN is 2021-00056. And this is the location is County Fire Station number 59, located at 1200 Pescadero Creek Road. Replacement of County Fire Station number 59 and La Honda Pescadero Middle High School, located at 330 Butano Cutoff. The two relevant assessor parcel numbers are 086-150-050 and 087-053-010. And this is the consideration of a local coastal program amendment to facilitate the future construction of a replacement fire station, County number 59, and extension of CSA 11 to serve the fire station and Pescadero Middle High School. Please direct questions to project planner Melissa Ross. And I believe there are folks from the county here to present information on this item.
Yes, Melissa Ross, Planning Services Manager for the Planning and Building Department, is here with the presentation.
I got questions when I can.
Thanks, Summer. Thanks, Chair. And let me see if I can share my screen here for the presentation. I have been
Great. I just want to acknowledge Peter's comment, and I think we'll take questions until Melissa has a chance to do her presentation.
Okay, I can't see that presentation.
Sorry, Melissa, to interrupt. Go ahead.
No problem, but I can't share my screen. Disabled currently.
I think we need to make you a host or a co-host.
Should be able to do it just fine. Let me see. Let's try that.
Okay.
Double check. She's already a panel. Well, try co-host, but should
Yeah, I think I just moved you to co-host.
I think this works here.
There we go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And let me see if I can do full screen here. Does that work? Everybody can see that? Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Let me minimize a couple things. And just before I get started here. Okay. All right, make sure everything works. Okay. Good evening. My name is Melissa Ross, Planning Services Manager, Planning and Building Department for San Mateo County. And I'm going to present on the current LCP amendment for the County Fire Station 59 and CSA 11 extension. So the owners, just one point of clarification, the owners for the project is the County of San Mateo, as well as the La Honda Pescadero Unified School District, since the fire station, the current fire station property is owned by the county. And then of course the school owns the middle school, high school location. And let me go ahead and move to my next slide here. So the project description is a local coastal program amendment to facilitate future construction of a replacement fire station, which is Fire Station 59, and extension of CSA 11 to serve the fire station and Pescadero Middle and High School located at 350, 360 Butno Cutoff. And before I move on to the next slides, just a bit of background on the project. So funding for the fire station project will use allocated Measure K funds. The San Mateo County Critical Services Measure, that's that half-cent sales tax that was extended in November 2016 by taxpayers by vote. And the CSA 11 pipeline construction will be funded by a grant from the State Water Resources Control Board. This is the Prop 1 Technical Assistance Funding Program, and this will be for drinking water protection to serve the school. So for the fire station in 2014, the county completed a site needs assessment, also known as the Ratcliffe Report. The assessment identified the location of the fire station property within the FEMA floodplain, also the location being adjacent to a tsunami inundation area, which current maps by the State Department of Conservation show the whole site within the tsunami inundation area. And of course, the annual flooding of Pescadero Creek Road at the Butno Creek Bridge. And this was of course before dredging that cuts off the fire station from the rest of the Pescadero community. The station has suffered from interior flooding annually from mold and plumbing backups. And the assessment noted that although minor structural upgrades could be completed to the facility could not comply with life, safety, and immediate occupancy performance levels due to the location within a flood hazard. So in 2015, the Pescadero Fire Station Steering Committee was formed to assist in the selection of a location for a replacement fire station. The steering committee evaluated 14 parcels within the Pescadero community that were either on the market or publicly owned and within the county's fire response circle. The steering committee and the county held a community workshop. The county also presented before the school district board, both happening around 2016, 2017. And as a result of community, school board, steering committee input, the school site was selected for the replacement station. After the county's due diligence on the school site, it was determined that a domestic well, which was drilled, could not produce adequate potable water to serve the fire station. So we did issue a coastal development permit to drill a test well, and we did not come up with adequate water to serve the fire station. Further, since the school's on-site well, their existing well, cannot be used by the school for domestic water purposes due to contaminant exceedances, it was determined that CSA 11 could be extended to serve both critical facilities, so to serve the replacement fire station as well as the school. So now I want to go on to taking a look at what we currently have submitted, which is the formal LCP application and kind of the processing steps here. So these are the general planning and building steps for the LCP amendment. That is the first step, and that is the step that we're in right now. And what we're looking at here is amending policies and maps to facilitate the project. We also have an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. That's the environmental document according to California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. There's no construction proposed at this point. There's no construction approved during this step. The LCP amendments will require Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors public hearings and approval. And if approved at the local level through Planning Commission and Board, then it will move on to the Coastal Commission for their review and certification. And that's only to cover the amendments to the county's LCP, to the local coastal program. If the amendments are certified by the Coastal Commission, then we move on to the next step, which will be the coastal development permits. So we will review the planning permits to approve the construction of the project for the entitlements. The project will need to be compliant with the amendments that we've done in the previous step, as well as the California Environmental Quality Act. So as well as that initial study and mitigated negative declaration that we have the public comment period open for right now. The coastal development permit includes development specific conditions of approval. So this is where we take a look at the building itself. We can condition it for additional compliance like colors and materials, move a window here, move a door here. We can really kind of delve into the nitty gritty of how the building is constructed and sited and landscaping, etc. It will require Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors public hearings and approval. It'll be appealable to the Coastal Commission as well. So if the coastal development permits are approved, then we would move into the building permit stage, and that will be the actual construction permits that will authorize construction once the building permits are issued. The construction permits, the building permits must be consistent with the approved coastal development permit, which is in turn consistent with the LCP amendments if they're certified. The conditions of approval that we place on the coastal development permit, as well as through CEQA, will need to be complied with either before building permit issuance or after permit issuance. It's going to depend on the timing that's set for that condition of approval. So we have 3 general project steps here. There are other processes that are happening, like LAFCO's process, but these are the general planning and building processes. And we're currently just in the first phase of the LCP amendment of taking a look at policies to help facilitate the next 2 phases. So I want to take a look at what the LCP amendments would facilitate. And this is the existing fire station site. And we would be looking at demolishing the barracks in red. Over here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if you can, the barracks in red. And we will retain that area for parking and emergency staging. We would retain the apparatus bay in blue, add 1 bedroom and a sleeping room for emergency operations, and retain the existing well for non-potable uses, retain CSA 11 connection for potable uses. For the new fire station and site plan, the location of the new fire station will be at the corner of Cloverdale and Butno. The county would be leasing approximately 1.75 acres from the school. The station will be set back from sensitive habitats that are within the Cloverdale ditch. The station would not be located in a flood hazard or on a fault hazard. We've done our due diligence by looking at maps and also did a fault trenching in the area. But it will convert prime agricultural lands to a non-agricultural use. So this area here is essentially a fallow field. It hasn't been under agricultural production for some years now, but it still is prime agricultural land. through our LCP, through our NRCS web soil survey for land capability classification and story index. So I'll note here that the local coastal program currently, it does allow for conversion of prime ag lands. You have to meet certain criteria. And even with the criteria met, the county will need to acquire an offsite mitigation parcel where an agricultural easement will encumber prime agricultural lands at a 2-to-1 ratio. So during the coastal development permit process, the county will be looking to acquire another property that's of similar soils and within reasonable proximity, and then encumber it with an agricultural easement. And that'll be at least 3.5 acres. And again, this will happen during the coastal development permit process if these LCP amendments are certified. So just to take a look at kind of the elevations of the fire station. This is the view from Cloverdale looking eastward. And keep in mind, these are not the final construction drawings. These are 30% plans. We will fine tune this as we progress through the process. The view from Buteno Cutoff looking north. And this is the view from the school's driveway looking west. And then the view from Cloverdale from the ag field looking south. So let's take a look at the pipeline alignment. Now the pipeline is running from just east of the Stage and Pescadero Creek Road intersection. It will run within the road prism all the way to the school property. So it will be within the developed road area for the most part. And then follow Cloverdale down to the school and then connect it there. Other than the fire station, just to note, other than the fire station and the school, all other connections along the pipeline will be prohibited. So this is only to serve the school and the fire station. The connection will serve domestic water uses for the station and the school. So the existing school's well will be used, continue to be used for non-potable water uses like vehicle washing and storage tank cleaning. So let's take a look at the actual amendments here. And what we currently have proposed are 2 amended policies of our local coastal program only. We're not amending any other regulations. 2 amended policies, 1 new policy, 1 amended table, and 2 amended maps. So the first policy, 2.37, as amended, the policy reads, and the amendments are in bold here. Require the managing entity of the water system to monitor water consumption by use, and we are adding groundwater level trends and sustainability, and revise the estimated build-out capacity limits and the reservations for the priority uses annually on the basis of this monitoring. And the reason that we're amending this policy is that we did complete a water supply yield and sustainability study to evaluate CSA 11 water service for this project. So the report audited existing connections. It analyzed short-term and long-term project impacts, potential water quality impacts, potential LCP build-out, climate change modeling, anticipated non-revenue water, which are leaks, and then the potential additional sources of supply. So essentially, can CSA 11 continue to provide service with the addition of the fire station and the school? There was no significant increase in water consumption with the fire station, since the new station will be a more efficient fire station, and the use of the station will shift from the old location to the new, because we're demolishing the barracks at the existing location and then building a new station for 12 firefighters at the school site. So there's not too much of a difference there. There's not a significant increase in water consumption. The school will add approximately 835 gallons per day. And if we take a look at our LCP table, and I'll show you that in a minute, But table 2.16 has a rate of about 70 gallons per household based on 3.5 individuals in a household. So it totals about 245 gallons per day. So that would be about 3.5 households added per day, gallons per day, with the addition of the school, just something to equate numbers to. So with this amended language, CSA 11 will need to monitor groundwater trends and sustainability more so to determine if the CSA 11 wells need to be lowered or upsized. So for instance, well number 3 in the future may need to be lowered, but we need to monitor at what point it may be appropriate or is needed. Well number 3 is the active well. Well number 1 is the standby well. At what point would this well need to be lowered and or upsized? So policy 2.9 is the service area boundary, and this is the service area boundary for CSA 11. The amended language is limit water connections to uses within the boundary of the rural service center and to the fire protection facilities and public schools serving the rural service center. So this just allows CSA 11 to be extended through our LCP to serve the new fire station in the school. We have one new policy, 2.60, which is the Pescadero Fire Station. This is no provision of this local coastal program shall be interpreted in such a manner as to prohibit or effectively prohibit the construction and use of a fire protection facility and related uses at 350-360 Butte Cutoff in the town of Pescadero, subject to conditions of a permit under policy 5.6B6 that achieves maximum compliance with local coastal plan policies. So this is essentially saying that if there is a conflict, that we can allow the fire station to be constructed at this particular location, provided we have maximum compliance with the local coastal program. Policy 5.6B6 allows the fire station to be permitted as a conditional use. So this is us using the coastal development to add conditions to this, to modify, to mitigate for potential impacts, and to have it go through a public hearing process. We'll take a look at the fourth policy, and apologies for a bit of text, but to try and get everything on the slide. This is the table 2.16, and this is the estimate of water consumption demand at land use build out for the town of Pescadero. So a portion of this is being updated to reflect the current water usage of the fire station and the anticipated water usage of the school. So here we have the fire station showing 390 gallons per day. That is what is anticipated based on their estimated use of 326 gallons per day, which is current use of the existing fire station, in addition to emergency staffing of the existing site. So we're shifting the usage, the water usage from the existing barracks to the new site. And then we're adding a couple of gallons per day because we anticipate having staffing of the apparatus bay of 8 days per year, roughly 8 gallons per day. So minimal. So we come up with about 390 gallons per day for the fire station. For the school, as I said before, 835 gallons per day is what is anticipated. And then we've adjusted the numbers at the bottom for the total gallons per day. So I would note that the CSA 11 yield and sustainability study stated that the estimated total water use with full LCP build out and the addition of the fire station and school facilities is roughly 48,544 gallons per day. So that's of everything at full build out. So when you look at this table and you look at the bottom where it says total demand gallons per day, their yield estimated 43 to 68% of the current LCP estimate. So it's below what we anticipated when this table was created back in the 80s with the LCP. So even with full project and full build out in this area, water consumption is still below the estimated range. The county will need to do a more thorough exploration of water consumption, and then we'll need to adjust build-out limits, likely with data after the project is implemented, and most likely through a community plan where we can really take a look at parcel by parcel and constraints, and come to a determination of what is actual build out there now that some time has passed since the LCP was initially certified and since this table was updated last. So finally, the map amendments are the last bit, and that is for consistency purposes, to update the land use designation for public facilities we use institutional. The current fire station has an LCP and a general plan land designation of institutional. The school site also has a land use designation of institutional, but the school property itself is part institutional, part agriculture. So the area that the fire station is proposed, that lease area, is currently designated agriculture under the county's LCP. Under the general plan, the whole school site, the whole school parcel is institutional. So for consistency purposes, we would take just the lease area where the fire station is proposed and change that to institutional, similar to what the existing fire station has and how the school is designated as well. And then lastly, the environmental review. And so as I mentioned earlier, we have published the environmental document, its initial study, mitigated negative declaration, and it's currently open for public comment. We have it available on our website under planning, under major projects. We also have it under the CEQA documents. It is uploaded to the state clearinghouse and it's been posted at the assessor's office at County Center. So any written comments that you have, please email me or send them in via mail prior to the close of business, so 5 p.m. on July 7th. And my email is here. If you need additional information, please let me know. So with this, as we do with most projects going before the Ag Advisory Committee, we do ask 2 general questions of, is there any feedback on the potential effects on impacted agricultural uses as a result of the proposed amendments? And then any recommended conditions of approval or other questions to address? And what position do you recommend that the planning department staff take with respect to the project application, which in this case is the LCP amendment? So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I got questions. Hello, John, Peter. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted, Peter. Yeah, why don't we start with you, Peter? If you have, go ahead and get some questions in.
I got a few questions. First of all, I think it was about 2012 when we were acquiring interest in tapping into the CSA 11 into our property in Pescadero that's adjacent to the parcel that has the well, CSA 11. And we met with Don Horsley and Sarah Rosendahl. They let us know that we can't do that because it was deemed for the township of Pescadero and the township only. And I'm surprised that they're able to be able to do it for a school and a fire department that's not the township. And how are they able to do that? And if they're able to do that, then could I be able to tap into CSA 11 and my Pescadero parcel that's adjacent to the water? That's one question. The other question, does this project use a density credit? Those are 2 questions I have for now.
So to your question about the density credit, technically, yes, it would, because it's a designated agricultural land use designation. But with that, that's part of the reason that we have the policy 2.6 proposed is that we are going to put aside density credit requirement and allow the fire station construction to move forward. We will also rezone that area to institutional instead of keeping it as agriculture.
Could you, I don't quite understand the 2.6. How did you were able to work around the density credit? How were you able to do that? Could you explain that to me better?
We are working around the density credit with the addition of an LCP policy. That
LCP what?
LCP policy.
The other one was that I asked about, that it was deemed through LOFCO for the township of Pescadero, the CSA 11. How were you able to work around that?
So the addition, serving the town with CSA 11 is a growth-inducing service because it goes beyond the rural service center to serve potentially more homes. And the fire station is not growth-inducing, the school is not growth-inducing, and so we don't have that issue. The other requirement of this LCP amendment is that we cannot allow anybody else to connect. It is solely to serve critical facilities. So it's solely to serve the fire station and the school, which also serves as an evacuation site. That is its sole purpose. We can't allow any other properties to connect along that pipeline.
I hear you. When we tried to get connected to it, we weren't going to be growth inducing. We wanted to serve our present home, and we were denied because it was deemed for the township solely of Pescadero by LOFCO. I was just wondering how you guys got around it, and we cannot.
Because it's serving critical facilities, the fire station and the school.
Okay. Fred, I see that your hand is raised. You want to go ahead and chime in?
Yeah, thank you, John. Hello, Melissa. Nice presentation. Anyway, I had some questions I wanted to ask about the, has there been any effort to look into needs at the, for improvements at the school as a community evacuation center? And so if, is there a concurrent effort to also update the facility there to meet the community needs? Also, I was wondering about the status of the off-site mitigation parcel. Is that currently an agricultural production site? And if it is, I don't know if you could consider it to be, a 2-for-1 if it's already in production. Also was interested in, is there any kind of an effort to ID solutions for the dropping water levels in the aquifer, either using aquifer recharge methods, cisterns, gray water systems, something to try to address that shortfall, because it doesn't look like more water is going to be available unless we go through some sort of effort to make it so.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. It's nice seeing you again. The community needs for the school district, for that particular school, I should say, we did take a look at that. That may be something that the school district will be exploring as we move forward, some improvements maybe to that school if there happens to be any grant funding available. I don't know if there's going to be any additional funding maybe from on the state level or any other opportunities, but they're well aware of that. We did have some of those discussions. It was just going a little bit beyond what we could accomplish through this project. Also would need a little more time and studies, but yes, it is something that's most likely going to happen after the LCP amendments if the fire station is constructed and the school is connected. For the offsite mitigation parcel, that parcel has to be land that is not currently farmed and hasn't been. So it's basically, it's going to have to be kind of fresh land to farm on. So yeah, we do need to find a property where we've not had any activities, agricultural operations on that. And the solutions for the aquifer, I think this is probably something that Public Works, CSA 11 may be already looking into because of long-term strategy here, but also building into our LCP policy with groundwater trends and sustainability. How do we make the aquifer more sustainable? What other resources could we look to? And I think that's really more on DPW CSA 11 side to explore that more in depth. But part of that did come up as we were looking through the yield sustainability study as well.
Yeah, well, I know gray water systems have always been, I think, prohibited in our general plan. Is there any kind of an effort to take a second look at those and to reconsider that position?
There might be. We are in planning and building. We're helping Office of Sustainability move forward with their community climate action plan. And so there may be some policies in there that we may be strengthening and maybe opening some doors, at least on kind of the general plan side of things. If not, those are things that we need to look at.
Excellent. Thank you. It's good to see you.
I think I saw James's hand up first. If we could get James to pose a question.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I had several questions as well. I was also really interested in hearing more about this 2-to-1 conversion. And I was wondering if any sites had been looked at and discussed in terms of costs, because part of all these plans too is, you're trying to look at apples to apples, how much is going to cost plan A versus plan B with moving, but it doesn't talk about acquiring another site and where it would be. And especially if it's going to, I also had those concerns about whether you're buying something already in ag and et cetera. I also had a question about the 8 gallons a day at the old station after the move. I was wondering if we had more details of what the old station would look like, because 8 gallons a day seems very small. And I'm assuming you're still going to have like a lawn and you're still going to upkeep, the looks of that building to an extent. So I thought 8 gallons a day was rather low. I also didn't particularly like in the amended policy 2.39, striking the July 28, 1993. It just concerns me that potentially like a new school or some new facility could come up, and just down the line, I'm just scared of something like that coming back to haunt me. I was also just kind of looking for more information on 2.60, because I'm still a little hazy on what that means. It just felt like it's put in there to make it so no one can fight it as long as you're following the regulations. But if you're following the regulations, no one should be fighting it in the first place. So I'm a little confused about the purpose of that.
So I will kind of take your questions as you stated them. For the sites that the offsite mitigation site, we have not looked at any parcels just yet. We know that this is something we have to do. It will also be required by the Coastal Commission that we provide an offsite mitigation parcel, but we've not looked at any properties yet, understanding the costs. The real properties division in the county, we've had conversations with them as well. So they're aware that we're going to have to purchase a parcel that's at least 3.5 acres where we can encumber that land. And it will be something that we will have to do during the coastal development permit process. The 8 gallons per day is small, but it's intended to be small. With the barracks demolished on that site, the only thing that's left is the apparatus bay that will have one restroom and sleeping quarters. So that's the only connection there for potable water. Everything else can use non-potable. It can use the existing well. We don't intend on, filling any tanks, washing any trucks with CSA 11 water. So it'll just be well. 2.39, policy 2.39, we did strike the date because of the way that policy reads. It is limit water connections to uses within the boundary of the rural service center and to the fire protection facility serving the rural service center on July 28, 1993. So that date was put in for that policy, as I read it, when CSA 11 was initially connected to the existing fire station. So if I keep the date in there, then we have a conflict of dates between adding the new fire station and connecting the school. So that's why the date was taken out. The policy 2.60 is essentially a way of getting around policy conflicts in order to facilitate this project moving forward, where we might have not realized a policy might conflict with the project. Policy 2.60 would give us some flexibility to continue to move the project forward without having to amend everything in the LCP, as long as we are still compliant with the intent and the LCP policies where we can mitigate for. So the offsite mitigation parcel, visual resources, all the other components of the LCP. So I don't know if that kind of complicates it or if that helps.
I also had one last question, sorry. Looking at the maps of the station, it shows the septic field going pretty close to the edge of the north boundary. And I was curious what the setback was from that boundary, because I know in food safety things, they're looking for like at least 30 feet from a septic field.
Oh, for the ag field to the north of the septic field. This site was, I believe, reviewed by environmental health, and there were no concerns raised. Of course, the school has reviewed and other departments in the county have reviewed, and there was no concern raised, but we can take a look at it and make sure that we don't have a conflict there.
Question when you get a chance.
Great questions, James. I think I hear that you're wanting to get back on there, Peter. Let's let Natalie, she's had her hand raised for a while, and then we'll circle back to you as soon as we can.
Hi, thank you.
Good questions, James.
Hi, thank you. And thanks for the presentation. I have 3 questions. My first one, it starts with a concern. I'm concerned about the prime soil. It's my understanding that in the past, Farm Bureau, recommended no to this project. I'm wondering, given that there is that prime soil and it does involve what you have to do and then turn around and mitigate or find land that you can mitigate, the 14 parcels that you mentioned, that you looked at between 2016 and 2017 that were available for sale, I guess, in Pescadero. What was the reason that you didn't use one of those? Did any of those have non-prime soil lands, but they could have been used? In general, thinking back to that, what was the reason? That's my first question. And then the second question is, the off-site mitigation, what's the time frame that you have to, or is there one? And if so, what's the time frame that a mitigated property has to be identified and purchased. And then the third one is the LCP policy that puts aside the density credit. What exactly does that state? If you're able to answer those three, thank you.
So the prime soils conversion and the other parcels. I think I might have missed one of your questions, but the prime soils conversion and the other parcels that were looked at, yeah, there were 14 other parcels that we considered. The reason that some of them had prime soils, some of them did not. But the reason that we went with the fire station, that was based on community input. And at the public workshop that we held back in 2016, we whittled down the 14 parcels to 4, and all of them were publicly owned. So it was the corporation yard, it was the existing fire station site, it was the school site, and I believe Bean Hollow, the county site up where the wells are, up in that back area of the old landing strip. So it was only down to the 4 publicly owned locations. And the fire station at the school site was the preferred location from the fire steering committee. And this is the site that we move forward with. And you had one other question on the prime soils, I believe. I think I missed.
Yeah, I had 2 other questions, but follow up on the one you just answered, and thank you for that. Why was, do you recall why they chose this site over the 4 others in general?
I would have to take a look at the letter, which I can bring that up and share that with you. It would take me a minute, but there was a justification behind that.
Okay.
And I can
Thank you.
figure that out.
Thank you. And then the other two questions were for the mitigated, for buying another piece of property for mitigation purposes. What is there a time frame that needs to be followed to do that? Does it have to be done within a certain time frame? And if so, what? And then the LCP policy that states that you're able to put aside the density credit. I just wondering what exactly that states and the policy number. And those were the other 2 I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the time frame for the mitigation, the offsite mitigation council is going to be before the coastal development permit is approved. So we will have to sort that out. We will have to have a mitigation parcel identified. Because it will need to be to the satisfaction of course, the county, and it will need to be the satisfaction of the Coastal Commission, and then we will need to encumber it, possession and encumber that property. So that will be part of the coastal development permit process. And okay. The density credit requirement, the local coastal program and zoning regulations require density credits for non-residential uses. And so we can't get around that in order to build the fire station on the school site. This is one of the conflicts in the LCP and with this project. So part of adding policy 3.60 is basically allowing the fire station to move forward on that parcel specifically, on that lease area specifically, and we are putting aside the density credit requirement for that.
Thank you very much for answering.
Sure.
All right, I don't see anyone else's hands raised. Peter, did you have a follow-up? Fred's got his hand up again, great.
Let me unmute myself.
But Peter, did you want to? Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Melissa, this really isn't a question, but just is there a possibility of saltwater intrusion into the aquifer? I mean, given the fact that it's being overdrafted in its proximity to the ocean, Is there any evidence of saltwater intrusion, and what's been done with regards to that?
From the sustainability and yield study, the water budget analysis essentially that we did, there was no indication that there were going to be any impacts resulting from the project. So adding the fire station in the school, there were no impacts to coastal resources and the aquifer in general. There's no evidence of saltwater intrusion.
Yeah, I guess that's why I prefaced it with, it really doesn't relate to the project, because it looks like the impacts of the fire station are going to be relatively minor. So, but no, it was just something, looking at the location of those wells and the fact that it's being overdrafted. Is that a perched aquifer?
I don't know.
You don't know? I'm guessing it is. Most of them around here are. But, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
John, I just wanted to let you know that Peter called me and he said he was muted. That's why he couldn't respond to you. So he thinks he's muted, if you guys are able to check that.
Yeah, it looks like maybe he's not now. I'm not seeing a mute on him. I call in user 1. Peter, can you try to say something?
Can you hear me, John? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you
We
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Okay. Is it my turn to talk? My turn to talk?
Go for it.
Okay. Couple things I want to ask is, I think it's one thing, it's going to be hard to find farmland that hasn't been used, because in the Pescadero area at one point has been used. And the other thing too is, and a matter of fact, it says hundreds of acres has been taken away by either the state or an open space or some other governmental identity, or one thing or the other. So I don't see how we can find something that's hasn't been used to replace. The other thing too is currently the fire station, seeing the extent that the 35-mile-per-hour limit out westward is somewhat in the middle of the 35-mile-an-hour zone. And if they go all the way on the other side of town, it says it's going to be a lot longer to reach me and my farm worker compound, where it's like 1.5 miles now, and where it's going to be over double that. And it's going to take, if we have emergencies, it's going to take a lot longer to get to the coast where we are, and a lot of emergency calls are. That's my 2 comments I want to make. Thank you.
So I think I caught the first, the second comment on the emergency response and the length of time. There was I believe the Ratcliffe Report, the site needs assessment did take a look at emergencies and response times, which are well within what County Fire is charged with. And I believe there was a discussion, there were roughly equal halves of emergencies on both sides of the Buteno Bridge. And I think that was where they were looking at, is the fire station better served on the east side or on the west side of the Pescadero community? Do we keep the fire station on the existing fire station site, or would moving it eastward impact response time? And the answer was no. So there was an equal number of emergencies on, of course, along Highway 1, and then of course in the greater Pescadero community area. And the County Fire created a map that identified a response circle where they could meet their response time if a fire station were located within a particular response circle. The school site, I believe, is within that response circle. So this would not adversely impact County Fire's ability to respond to emergencies, whether they were out on the coast or further eastward.
My property is 12720 Cabrillo Highway, and it's 1.5 miles away. And for it to go by where it's going to new location is going to be greatly larger, regardless of the circle of the map.
Do keep in mind, though, the existing fire station will remain for emergency services. So there will be the main fire station at the school, but then operational needs, we still will have the apparatus bay at the existing station.
Okay, I don't know if you got my first question. It's going to be pretty hard to find replacement farmland that hasn't been farmed, because at one point in Pescadero area, that's all been farmed.
Yes, that is our challenge. And that is the challenge, that if the LCP amendments are certified, that is something that we need to take up, because we can't move forward with the project essentially without it. So we are aware that this is a big step, and this is something that we'll have to take a look at if these LCP amendments are approved.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of farmland out there. It's just whether or not there's irrigation water or access.
Thanks. I had a couple of things I wanted to say, if I may. I'm looking at the dates that you have associated with water usage of adding the fire station in school, and I know that the gallons per day don't really change significantly, but it seems like your studies did indicate that the time to which we might need to modify the wells or make changes somewhat significantly, whereas it would impact well 1 4 years sooner, but then there's further impact on well number 3, and it looks like it's like 20 or 31 years sooner than had previously been considered. And I'm wondering if this is just a result of you better understanding the actual condition of the aquifer compared to what might have been believed earlier on, or because that does seem like a significant sacrifice to say, like, well, our water system for the town could work for 100 more years, but if we put in this development, then it will only last for 70 more years. I understand that there may be, no matter what happens, there'll probably be the need to address the water system for the town in the long term. But I thought that was an interesting observation. I wonder if you had any comment on that. And then the other thing, is there any possibility that the school, and then this is an argument for continuing to reallocate more water, but could this project of extending the pipeline to the school go forward without the movement of the farm or the building of a new fire station? And then also, I guess, final question would be, I know that there was studies done saying that it was hard to improve the existing firehouse. Was there any like serious plans drawn up for like how the relative cost of doing something at the existing site versus this larger project of building a new one at the school?
So to your first question, yes, there is some impact to the aquifer and the long-term use with the addition of these uses, primarily more with the addition of the school, because we are removing the barracks from the existing fire station. There is some increase, but not significant increase in water consumption. There are some numbers and years on the wells and how the wells or how the aquifer may be impacted with the addition of the uses. This is the primary reason that we added an amended policy for CSA 11 for Public Works to monitor groundwater trends and to monitor sustainability of the aquifer, given climate change and the addition of these uses. So there's probably going to be some impact here. It will need to be monitored, which is why we're amending the policy. To the degree that the aquifer is impacted, will probably need to be reviewed based on data when the projects are up and running, when CSA 11 is connected and over the course of the years. It may be a longer time before well 3 maybe needs to be dropped. It may be a shorter time, but I think that's, for the most part, the water consumption. If the school winds up improving their facilities, then that would lower consumption and then extend the life of the aquifer, having all things connected. This also assumed full build out in the LCP, which needs to be reviewed. That could very well be that all the parcels that we might see on paper aren't actually available to build on. Maybe 2 parcels side by side or 1, or, you know, we'd have to take a look at everything to see what we actually have out there and review that comprehensively. And that may also have that aquifer in these years and numbers maybe a little bit longer. So that's one kind of review there for the long-term use with the addition of these uses. Having the project move forward, and if I understand correctly, is it the project moving forward without constructing the fire station on the school site?
My question would be, could we get drinking water to the school without building the fire station? Like, could the pipeline be extended? Because that's something that I feel has value regardless of the fire station.
So we are planning, of course, to have both. The CSA 11 to extend it to the school, we need to have that. We don't have potable water at the school. The fire station, both of these are coming as kind of a package. I don't think, and I am thinking off the top of my head at the moment, but I don't think there's any reason that if one fails, the other couldn't move forward. If CSA 11 is extended to connect the school and something happens and we cannot construct the fire station, I don't believe that we have any policies written in such a manner that that would be a problem. I can double check that. The reason that the fire station cannot be reconstructed at the existing site, and we did look at that, that was one of the options. Could we use the existing site and just reconstruct a fire station there? But the answer was no, because it's in a mapped floodplain. So we have that flood hazard as a problem, and even more so as a problem for a critical facility for the fire station, for a fire station itself. So we had to shift it. The other concern was that the existing parcel was not large enough to accommodate a more up-to-date kind of state-of-the-art station. We were looking for a site that was at least 1 acre up to 3 acres. So there were some other constraints on that property besides the floodplain, but we did look at it to see if we could kind of repurpose what was there or maybe demolish and rebuild again, but we couldn't because of the hazard, and we wouldn't be able to have the critical facility located in a hazard or continue to be located in a hazard.
Great, thank you. So I see James has his hand up again. And I also see that a member of the community, Dante, has his hand up. I'd like to get to him as well. James, did you have something to add?
You're on mute, James.
Sorry about that. I have 2 questions. One of which is about 2.37, the policy change that talks about monitoring of the ground level that we were just talking about. What happens if you do see a reduction in the aquifer? I mean, is there any kind of plans if and thresholds of what happens and when and what has to be done? And then the second question I had was, has there been any thought or research into how the RCD project of dredging the creek affects the current situation with the fire station? Because it does talk about the road flooding and those issues being one of the reasons we need this. And if the RCD project that we've already spent millions of dollars on has done its job, and hopefully it will, then to me, it just strikes one of the reasons that this is something we're looking at.
So the RCD and the dredging is one element of the impacts on the existing fire station site, but not all of them. Part of it was that it's still in a mapped FEMA flood hazard. It's still in a flood plain, even if the dredging has minimized the frequency of the of Butno from flooding and Pescadero Creek Road from flooding. We still have a mapped flood hazard area. We also still have a mapped tsunami inundation area. The whole of that fire station, existing fire station property, is mapped tsunami inundation. So even if we remove or lessen one hazard, which is just the annual flooding, we still have the other mapped hazards, in addition to kind of constraints on that property where we tried to squeeze in a new fire station and it just is not a large enough parcel to do that. We were looking for something that was a larger parcel to have a better facility for the firefighters. Regarding the aquifer and the years, I would have to take a look at the yield and sustainability study a little bit more. That is part of the mitigated negative declaration. It's one of the attachments. It's also on the website for the Pescadero Fire Station and CSA 11 project. There's some more details about that and the years, but essentially what it is stating is that if the aquifer levels drop below a particular level, and that's essentially for well number 3, since that's the active well, if it drops or gets close to the well screen, that well can be dropped. It can be lowered and continue to pump. Well number 1, but again, that has to be monitored over the course of time to figure out what the trends are and sustainability. Well number 1, the standby well, the backup well, can also be dropped. That well, if it needs to be dropped as a standby well, it may also need to be upsized. But again, both of the wells and the aquifer and the levels will need to be continually monitored to make a determination on if and when those wells need to be dropped to continue pumping.
Thank you. Can we get a comment from Dante? His hand's been up for a while.
Can you hear me? Great.
Yes.
I have quite a few questions, but I'll hold off because I'm going to listen to your presentation a few more times, I think, this week. I'll just pick a couple off the top here. So one is Peter brought up about the calls, the 50-50 calls out on the coast versus up Creek Road. And it was more about, I'm on the Firehouse Steering Committee, as you know, we asked a lot of these questions early on, and it was more about the severity of the call. Even though they said 50-50, you might be a bee sting at Memorial Park versus a head-on on Highway 1, and that was one of my earlier concerns, and you know, the traffic coming through town, but they looked at all that stuff. Also, I'm hearing, you know, well 1, and then you finally said the monitoring well or the standby well. The original well, the Warhite well, Virginia Warhite, you know, the school teacher and for school housing, and then CSA 11 was formed, and the monitoring well versus the standby well, I was told that we couldn't use that well, or if we did, we'd have to issue a boil water notice because they could not find the well completion report. on that well. So there's multiple cased wells up there. The last well, which I would refer to as the production well, but I believe now you're calling it well 3. I would just at some point, not now, some clarity on the original wells, the monitoring wells, the newer well that we took, a friend of ours up there that located that well after Fort Bragg Electrical that had the contract for the water tank and the well. They actually drilled a dry hole right next to the water tank, which was very costly. And my concern was that all that Prop 84 money was long gone early on. And I just hope that, you know, CSA 11 ratepayers aren't picking up any of that tab, because I know we needed to get a reserve fund balance and all those other things that now the system's monitored by the state. But I can go on, but those are my concerns and questions as far as the wells, the condition of the wells. Are all of the wells going to be considered active? But clarity, and not now, you can get back to me on that, but monitoring well, production well, standby well, war height well, are any of them going to be abandoned? I believe there's 5 wells up there now.
I'll note that, Dante, thank you. And I'll get in touch with DPW, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Louis, you have your hand up?
Yes. Melissa, it was a nice presentation. It was very good. However, I'm kind of leaning a question the same as Dante had as far as the incident occurrences and what type of incidences, because I'm more interested in life-threatening incidences over someone with a locked out car or a broken water line in their house. It doesn't tell you, I mean, they're all incidences, but where do we place it at? And also, what are the options if you can't find replacement acreage that you're talking about, this 3.5 acres? What happens if you don't find it?
So on the incidents, I can talk to County Fire and get some more details on that. The needs assessment was vague on level of incidents, and it was just pretty much everything lumped into one. But I can see if they can give us some more details on what they go out on, and then report back that to you. And then your second question.
On the acreage, the replacement.
Yeah, if we don't find acreage, I don't know what our next step will be, to be honest, because it is a requirement. We've had early consultation with the California Coastal Commission, and it is what they are requiring. I don't know if they will, if we will have the ability to have in lieu fee or provide some other mechanism to provide an equivalent. I don't know. At this point, we're looking for an ag mitigation parcel.
And are you looking for the replacement acreage in the same area, or can it be anywhere in the county?
It needs to be in reasonable proximity, which is a vague way of saying somewhere close by, right? So this is going to be a negotiation of what is available, what can we find, and whether or not it's going to satisfy the Coastal Commission's requirement and ours as well, into finding prime agricultural land that's close or reasonably close to the projects.
Okay. Thank you.
I have my hand up. I don't know if you guys see me there.
I'm muted, so I did just mention, Dante, you did have your hand up on purpose. Go ahead.
Yeah. How about county-owned lands? Are you looking at that, Melissa? as far as off of Reservoir Road, above CSA 11, there's hundreds of acres by the old landfill. We farmed some of that land years ago. My father did, and there are ponds on the county property. I believe the SB 88 stuff kicked in, so you guys are monitoring and reporting those wells as well. So, I mean, that might be your solution right there to your 3.5 acres of mitigation land.
Yeah, I want to say that it has to be land that the county does not currently own. I'd have to take a look at the mitigation measure on the language. We, again, worked with the Coastal Commission on that. And I believe we asked that question already, and I believe the answer was no. It needs to be land that the county acquires.
Oh, darn. I thought we had a solution. Okay. Jonathan, you haven't spoken yet. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I have two really basic questions. First, kind of to the committee, I've driven past this area. I'm not super familiar with it. How long has it been in fallow, and what are the intended uses of the land that are currently fallow over, a couple of years here, and what was previously grown there? And then my second question is to Melissa. Thank you for your presentation, by the way. It's excellent. Just wondering, so it sounds like, the fire station can't stay where it is, and the high school needs water. What are the hypothetical or the next steps should this not pass at all? What other mediation could we look at? That's it. Thank you.
Well, I think for the question on if this doesn't get certified, then we have to start all over. If we don't have the LCP amendment to facilitate the fire station, or for that matter, the CSA 11 pipeline to serve the school and the fire station, then we are back at square one. If all remedies are exhausted, we go through the planning commission process, we go through the board, and we ultimately get to the coastal commission. And for whatever reason, if it's not certified, then that may be the end of this project. And then we have to start over and potentially find another location, do due diligence, and go through that process. And I think to the fallow field, I'd certainly let others with more expertise answer that question, but the year that I had noted that it was fallow was about 2013.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not been farmed. I know there's not a ton of water available to the grower there. Jose Ramirez grows rosemary on a larger piece adjacent to it. Natalie, did you want to make an additional comment?
Yeah, thank you. I have one more question, Melissa. Okay, so in choosing this property for this, do we know in Pescadero specifically the ratio of prime land that's still available? I mean, just in thinking about taking away prime land, do we know how much prime land is still available? I mean, I'm sure we do, because I know you can go that one site online on your, in county planning and building, but do you have that information off the top of your head? Because it's just hard to say, okay, we're going to take away more, and when we don't know how much more is out there. Do you know what I mean? Except, I've heard that it's limited, but I haven't seen any data on that. Do you have anything on that?
I don't have anything off the top of my head. I know that it was something that I had looked at for Williamson Act contracts at one point, but I don't have the acreage on how much prime ag land is available. It is something that I can get for you if you like.
I would like that a lot. Thank you, because that's a big thought in my head. Because if we're looking at a town, you know, that's a little bit bigger, you know, that has more prime land, then that you know, it's different a little bit to me. But then again, I haven't seen any data, so I don't know for sure. So that would be great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Through the chair,
Thanks,
just
Valerie.
a quick time check. Sorry, just a quick time check. It's about it's 8:48 p.m. So just wanted to give that quick time check.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking about the same thing. I'm wondering if the committee is feeling closer, or anyone feeling like they want to make a motion regarding this item at this point, or is it a big enough topic that we want to take some time to read the many pages of the report? A lot of really good questions have been raised.
I move that we get the information on the data of how much prime soil is in Pescadero, and see, you know, think about it and so forth in the next few days, or, you know, table it to the next meeting when we have that information. Sorry, long motion.
Yeah, that's great. I wonder if there's a go ahead, Summer.
Sorry, I was just going to say, perhaps it does look like there is one more member of the public who has their hand raised. So I don't know, you know, I'll leave it to the chair if you want to perhaps hear from that person before a motion's made, or if you know, are wanting to just proceed forward with a motion. I just wanted to make note of that.
Yeah, thank you. Most definitely would like to hear from BJ. I was going to say if the motion might include some of the other questions we had besides just the point Natalie made about the prime egg land.
Definitely.
But
Thank
BJ
you.
is one of the closest neighbors. So let's if we could hear from you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Melissa, for your presentation. It's very nice. But to answer Jonathan's question, that was foul because he was told to leave it go foul. It wasn't because he didn't want to farm it. He was told not to farm it. And that's been farmed I farmed that since the school opened back in '59 until he took it over. And he's always farmed it, and he's been farming it lately. So that piece of land has always been farmed, except for the county telling them not to farm it. So, and it's got plenty of water, and it's good prime ground, very good prime ground.
Thank you, BJ. I appreciate that input.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you, BJ. So if we were to make a motion, kind of requesting more information, there's been a number of things brought up about the offsite mitigation parcel. I think that some of those questions have been answered. It's just the county doesn't know what would happen if they can't find that that parcel. And questions have been brought up around the aquifer, the capacity of the aquifer as well. Maybe the most succinct thing would be to just table the topic, make a motion that the committee makes no recommendation at this time.
John, this is Louis. I believe Fred has his hand up.
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fred,
I mean,
help me out here.
yeah, no, I mean, this is as much an informational item as an action item. And I think we've been providing, providing input to Melissa as far as what our concerns are. And I think that's a lot of why she is here. This is going to be an ongoing issue. They're still going to get it, for the PMAC and others, Farm Bureau. And so there's some time on this. And so I'm wondering if we as a committee should be looking at submitting comments, or has Melissa adequately captured those? And we as individuals can certainly submit comments as well, as per our specific interests as they may be. So I know that's a lot right there, but I don't know, Melissa, what are you looking for from us?
So ultimately, we're looking for a recommendation from the Ag Advisory on the project, right? Because we have a formal application for the LCP amendments, and we would like to have the AAC provide a recommendation that we can then go to the Planning Commission, the board, Coastal Commission, and say, Ag Advisory Committee said yay or nay, right? If I can offer maybe a couple of things, what I heard and what I wrote down for things to do to get back to you is the steering committee's letter, so that you can review that. Reviewing the septic field for conflicts with the ag field to the north. Also to double check that it's possible to separate the two elements, the fire station and connection of CSA 11, in case one does not go through. A status on all the wells currently. What are the incidents that County Fire responds to? A list of the minor incidents, the major incidents that they respond to, and then some data on how much prime land do we have within the Pescadero community. So there's some things that I can follow up on and then provide to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. I don't know if you want to make a recommendation at this point, or if you want to then get that information and then consider that information and then potentially provide a recommendation. I would also note that we do have the environmental document open. The public comment period is open. So in addition to the LCP amendments, there's also the CEQA document where you can provide comments on that before close of business on July 7th. You can do that as a committee at one of your meetings, of course. Or of course, you can provide comments both on the LCP amendments and the environmental document on an individual basis. So there are multiple opportunities to comment, but again, ultimately, I think what we're looking for, what the department's looking for, is what does the AAC recommend for this project?
Okay. Yeah, I think that, some of those issues that you're looking at addressing, some of the questions don't really relate to the project. They're more informational. I don't know at this point in time, if we were to make a motion to accept the proposal as drafted, if we would have support to have that pass within the committee. I think, I could make that motion and see if it dies for lack of a second. Or we as a committee can move this forward to the next meeting pending your response to the questions of interest to the project. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah,
that seems reasonable to me, Fred. Go ahead.
No, this is Judy, and I would just say what Fred just summarized is pretty accurate in terms of, I think if we try and move it forward at this point, my guess is it's not going to pass, just from the comments and the need for additional information in general. And that I think it's more needing some specific additional information that actually Melissa has accurately summarized in terms of some additional needs for specificity that we have on certain items. I think it's better to table it to the next time.
Great. Do we need to make a motion to table something, or are we able to just say that that's happened?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I probably should have said that.
Tabling is not an action item. And so we can go ahead and table it pending further information from the county to consider this at our next meeting and take action at that time.
Thank you, Fred.
You bet.
Excellent. Okay, and we're looking at 8:58 now. And as I think people were aware of and afraid might happen, it looks like we're not going to have time to approach item number 10. But I know that both Bill and Lauren probably had good things to contribute to that discussion. So maybe that's for the best. So the 10 committee review of AAC subcommittee meeting notes and agro-tourism guidelines from subcommittee meetings in January and in February will also be tabled until a future meeting. And go ahead and stop me if I'm overreaching my bounds here, but I would think we can adjourn the meeting and be out on time. If
John, I have a question.
If Louis needs to talk too. Okay.
Natalie,
Okay.
did you make a motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
My question.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And when John said information from everybody, I did say, yeah, that's mostly what I meant, but yes.
Do you want to rescind your motion?
Yeah, what do you mean? Do you want me? I can't hear you very well. Did you say to re-say it or just?
Do you want to rescind your motion?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go with Fred's recommendation.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thanks, Louis.
Also
Thank
want
you,
to
Fred.
just,
Thank you, Louis, for circling back.
can I say something really, really fast before you adjourn, John? I just,
Of course.
where I grew up and the property that I still own with my brothers is actually in about equal proximity to this parcel as BJ. And so the concern about prime ag land is really a very important thing in Pescadero. So I'm just hoping that everybody will really look at this and take it really seriously. And that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you,
Natalie,
Natalie.
we do. This is Judy. Yep.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay, and thank you, Melissa, for your presentation and your excellent answers to the questions and ability to summarize what we all asked, so that you can find further information.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa,
going forward.
And for those of interest, the Warriors won tonight, so they're up 3-2.
I had it recorded, Fred.
Great.
Give it away.
Thanks a lot, Fred. For those of us who were hoping to find out later, but great. Cool.
The most important news of the day.
I figured we'd go out on a high note.
All right.
Fred, does that go in the minutes?
Yeah, that would be in the minutes. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, John, adjourn the meeting.
Okay, go Warriors. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.